Hello D4 and Barb fans, Athorax here, and greetings from the PTR.
Greetings.
Today I'll be sharing everything that I managed to learn about the new season powers, and I'll also be showcasing my season 8 build, which is going to be Lunging Strike. There are going to be two variations of the build. One is going to be the standard and the other one is going to be the boss power oriented one. The boss powers are something else, they are absolutely crazy, I'll get to them in a bit. As far as Lunging Strike goes, it's a decent build, able to stand on his own 2 feet on the new Torment 4 difficulty, and I'll quickly showcase you what it can actually do. It can pretty much hit between about 20 to 40 billion, depending on the hits, and it's quite versatile when it comes to cooldown reduction, very flexible, and at the same time we are able to be quite tanky, and we have a decent amount of AoE, and generally speaking we're able to overpower quite often as well. And yeah, this is pretty much, as you can see, the build. As far as the skill tree goes, it's pretty standard, so we have chosen to obviously put up as many ranks as we can into Lunging Strike, and we have our usual suspects here of Warpath and Belligerence for even more damage. We have gone with Ground Stomp as a utility skill, interestingly enough, and we pretty much have the standard defenses, the 3 shouts, the self-healing, more multiplicative damage and critical strike chance here, and last but not least, Call of the Ancients. And as you can see, the Call of the Ancients cooldown is quite low, so thankfully that's because of the Shaku, which really helps us to kind of have a really flexible build when it comes to cooldown reduction. Shroud of False Death, quite classical, and Pangorgeous Gauntlets, very much needed for a basic skill build. Surprisingly, we went for a Lunging Strike Pants instead of T-Bolts. They seem to be doing more damage, so here we are. And Legendary Boots. Now we have a lot of armor from the Shaku, so we have chosen to kind of cap our resistances through using Legendary Boots plus the gems on the Amulet and Rings. And yeah, as far as the weapon goes, we are capped for double damage with Lunging Strike, and we have Searing Vex for even more passive ranks, and of course Ground Stomp for even more earthquake damage and multiplicative power. So yeah, Doombringer, very good weapon both offensively and defensively. That max life is gonna turn into overpower damage. Here we have Shard of Verithiel, which is basically more basic skill damage basically, and of course Belligerence here for even more damage, and of course Moni and Zan, so we can overpower quite often. Surprisingly, we have gone with Ring of Starless Skies. Now, even though it's a core skill ring generally speaking, because we're spending Fury through Shard of Verity, we're able to benefit from that 50% multiplicative damage, and we're using it wholeheartedly. And we have here a normal ring, just pretty standard, and last but not least, aspect of adaptability with a lot of passive ranks to heavy-handed and brute force, since we're both overpowering and using a 2-handed mace. So yeah, as far as the Paragon board goes, since it's an overpower build, we have decided to go with Dominate. So that's our second way of overpowering besides Monizan. Then we have our third way of overpowering, which is Bonebreaker. Essentially, we have gone also with Bonebreaker because of the fact that it allows us to have a lot more max life, and it basically gives us a lot of defenses. Challenger here, just a bit more damage, and then we have Blood Rage, good old Blood Rage, as usual, and over here we've gone with Decimator, another good defensive and offensive board, and we have gone with Crusher, so we can do even more overpower damage, and last but not least, Ire for some more defenses, and of course for more Blood Rage damage. So yeah, and we also have gone with the Wallbringer board here because it gives us a lot more max fury, which I'll get to in a bit, and of course more max life. So yeah, as far as boss powers go, we have gone with Urivar's Lobbed bombs, so it helps us to reduce our cooldown from 10 seconds to 5 seconds, which goes even more insane. And we have also chosen to go with Marshall. Essentially, Marshall over here reduces our ultimate cooldowns by 2 seconds for each shout, so that goes just insane. We're able to pop our ultimate almost all the time. And the other 3 modifiers are pretty much complementary towards the actual Lunging Strike, so they boost the Lunging Strike damage essentially. And yeah, I'll pretty much showcase you guys what the boss can, how long the boss can last when we actually go and fight him with everything here. As you can notice, we're pretty much decked out at this point, so this is probably more or less the best version of the build that you know, we're gonna get. And just to keep in mind that obviously when we're leveling through the new season and we're at Torment 4, we're going to be doing a bit less damage, but I believe with the right approach and with the right gear, we should still be able to pull out 10 to 15 billions, which should be more than enough to be able to kill bosses around here. So yeah, let's go give it a shot and see how fast we actually are able to down this bad boy. But yeah, all in all, decent builds, and as you can see, we're doing some decent damages over here. And there we are. That was pretty much how fast we can kill it. So as you can see, everything has been upscaled. So Torment 4 is now more difficult. Before it used to take about 8 billions to one-shot something. Now it takes, I don't know, 100 billion and so. So yeah, but nevertheless, the build is able to kind of output decent damage, and generally speaking, most of the builds are kind of doing these kind of damages these days. And yeah, but that's the standard version of the build, right? So now I'm gonna show you the broken part, the actual insanity here. So as soon as we defeat Belial, oh, he's a kitten, don't worry about him. He's absolutely harmless. Still, I'm doing my best not to get hit by things. As you can see, we can suffer some damage, but nothing too crazy. There we are. Yeah, a bit of an ambush by Belial. But yeah, let's go and showcase you the actual boss power oriented build. So what happens here is we're going to do some changes. We're going to put over some modifiers which are going to be complementary towards the boss power rather than our build, and one of them is going to be Avarice's Explosive Ore. Now the name of the game with this build is have as much maximum resource as you can, and the reason for that is Avarice's Explosive Ore, it essentially gives us 3.4 multiplicative % damage per 1 fury, so we can potentially reach about 450 maximum resource, and that equivalates to about 1500 multiplicative damage. So it goes insane. We're gonna go with Cinerat's Flames since Urivars are actually fire damage, so surprisingly we're gonna be pumping it with elemental damage. And then the last thing will be essentially Flesh Reaper again, and it will just boost the damage furthermore. But yeah, I'll just kind of go to the target dummy and showcase you guys the capability of the build. Now keep in mind that Fists of Fate are going to play an important role. Sadly my Fists of Fate are not 300%. If they were, we could probably be hitting even more with the build, but even now, in its current state, we're able to clear Pit 90, and it's just amazing. With a bit more modifications and a bit more power boost, we'll probably be able to do Pit 100 easily. And yeah, so basically at this point I have designed two variations, so depending on whether the boss powers get nerfed or not, we're gonna have two viable options. If the boss powers get nerfed, then obviously we will be having a bit more fun and a bit more challenge. It will feel more like Diablo 2, but if not, then well, it's going to be pretty much Season 7, which I don't mind. It was fun, and yeah, we're gonna do a few more modifications over here. We're gonna put Wrath, and I think we're gonna have to remove Crusher as well, so we can put a bit more damage over here. Maybe put Revenge. There we are. Right, let's give it a whirl. As you can see, 1.47 trillion just right off the bat, and you know, that's pretty much the capability of the build. As you can see, where the main power comes from us spamming Urivar's Lobbed bombs through our ultimate, so the smaller the cooldown reduction of our ultimate, the better. And yeah, as you can see, we're pretty much able to spam the ultimate almost all the time. And yeah, it's just crazy. Like, the damages are nothing like we've seen from the Lunging Strike main builds. And yeah, let me see if I can actually show you some pit action. But yeah, it's one way of doing things with this build. And yeah, it's just fun to watch everything explode all the time, I suppose. Yeah. Yeah, this build will allow us to basically max our glyphs out, so if anything else. Yeah, pretty decent. I don't know what's going to happen. Like, there's a good chance that these boss powers might get nerfed a bit, and if they do, that's understandable. But on the off chance that they don't, yeah, it's gonna be absolutely fun either way. I'm kind of excited to see which direction Blizzard goes and how things will turn out. There are a couple of variations of the builds, of the boss power builds, which I'm going to touch upon and I'm going to talk about. Depending on whether you play on hardcore or softcore, you may lose the Doombringer and you may put Ramaladni's Magnum Opus, which will give you even more resource. And yeah, essentially you can kind of see at this point that we'll be able to defeat the pit pretty easily. So I'm not gonna waste time to kind of go through the whole pit, but I'll definitely show you what I have in mind for the actual variations for the boss power build itself. And at this point, Lunging Strike, just generally speaking, it serves as a utility skill. It's just the whole build serves as a vessel and a carrier for the boss powers, and the main damage obviously comes from the boss power itself. So yeah, that's pretty much the builds. And yeah, Asians are here to help us all the time. Quite fun. So yeah, if we put Ramaladni's Magnum Opus as a blade, we might be able to reach about 500 maximum resource, which is going to increase our DPS even more, but it makes it a bit more scary and a bit more dodgy, especially if you play on hardcore. So yeah, obviously we're not completely masterworked with everything, so if we are, maybe we'll be able to reach even a bit more fury. But yeah, so far that's pretty much it. Now there's another variation which can be made, and that's using Ugly Bastard Helm and Wrath of the Berserker. Now the only issue is the cooldown reduction. I'm not 100% sure we can make it as smooth as Core of the Ancients, but it might be worth exploring, because it probably will be doing a bit more damage. As long as we are able to sort out the cooldowns, it's gonna be another fun way of approaching Urivar's Lobbed bombs. So yeah, there will be links in the description about everything. You'll be able to visit default builds to check out everything in detail for the builds. I will also be leaving some other useful links, and I also do stream, so you're more than welcome to drop by and have a look at what I'm cooking. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a nice and great Season 8, regardless of what happens, and I'll catch you around if you're playing on hardcore. Cheers.